Hi everyone, my name is Vishal and I have with me here Likhitha and Akhil. Today we will be talking about our project called Discussion Board. What is Discussion Board? It is a simple Java-based application that allows users to post threads and discussions and talk with one another. Moving on to our features.
Yes, some of the features include secure login using Spring Security, user status dashboard of application usage, thread creation by category, view all threads and particular threads based on category, view and corresponding operations on posts belonging to threads, post and answer, track all the user interaction in the applications like questions created, answered, and upvotes.
Moving on to the responsibility.
I primarily worked on setting up the Gradle for getting all the dependencies that are required. I then worked on setting up XAMPP for our MySQL DB and for creating the schema on it. Also worked on establishing a Hibernate JPI connection to allow to enable CRUD operations on the database. Finally, I worked on building the models and controllers for thread creation and threadless.
So I worked on developing models and controllers for posts and threads, implemented Spring MVC code for coordination between application components, setting up Spring Boot to launch application, and also worked on some portions of the UI.
I worked on setting up TimeLeaf, which is a template engine for rendering the front end of the application and also to help with interaction with the backend. I implemented the login and registration with Spring Security to log into our app and store it in a secured format by hashing. I also built models and controllers for listing and interacting with the various posts in the threads that are created. I also worked on some portions of the UI and help with some of the Gradle setup. Now moving on with the demo. Here's the homepage of our application. Here is this registration link where we will be able to register as a new user. So I'll create a new user now. I like ducks. Login name Bruce. I am awesome. Okay, so we can see how from the registration page the data is taken in, and then the state moves on to the login page. Now we will be able to log in with a new user. And now we can see that after login and validation based on the password that is entered, we reach onto the dashboard page with all the details shown on a particular user, like their introduction name and when did they register, and all kinds of interaction with our application, like threads that they've created, posts that they've created, how many posts that others have liked. And now let's quickly look at how the tables and DBs are created in our XAMPP MySQL server. We have our user. This is basically our DB, discussion DB, which has 3 tables: posts, threads, and users. Posts is used to hold the posts that are created by users in a different thread. Threads are the different discussions that the different users create and discuss with each other. User table holds the user details. This is just an example to show you where we created a new user and their introduction and their hash password is stored. Also, just to touch upon the Gradle for the application, when the application is booted up, it picks up all the dependencies and installs any dependencies that are missing, and then creates the tables with the relevant schema if they are non-existent. Moving on with create threads.
So for creating a thread, we can pick any of the categories that are here. I'll create a thread now and courses. My title will be how do you like OOAD? OOAD as a course. And the content, I liked it a lot. Do you like it? I'll create the thread, and we get auto redirected to the all threads page where we can see the creation of the thread and we can click on the author of the thread to see the status and the user details for that particular user who created the thread. So now we can create another thread in general. The title is, did you watch the NBA game? Awesome. Now we get back redirected back to the all threads page again. And if you want to see the threads in the particular categories, let's go to general and we can see the NBA thread that we created. And then going to the courses thread, we can see the course thread on OOAD that we created. And moving on to posts, I clicked on a thread.
So for a particular post here, we can see the title. Sorry, for a particular thread, we can see the title, who is the author and which category it belongs, and the question being asked for the thread. Here we can add an answer for this particular thread, like what is awesome. Yeah. By clicking on the post, we can see that the post count is incremented by 1. Here we have options to like or unlike this post, delete a post. Now, if we go to the dashboard of this user, we can see that he has answered on one thread, so post count is incremented by 1. Now by logging out and testing with another user, let's say username is Max. Password is Max test. We are redirected to the login page. Here, so here Max is a new user, so there are no threads, posts, or no likes count. Can go to the all category. Basically, this is like the explore section. We can find this title. Do you like OOAD as course? Max has options to like or unlike the course. So by clicking on this, he has marked this post as useful. Now we can again go to Bruce's account and check the details. So the likes count made by Max. So this is incremented from 0 to 1 here. And he can click on can go to this particular thread here. We can add a few more posts. We can also delete the original post made by Bruce. If we go to the dashboard of Bruce, then we see that current posts made by Bruce are only 2, as we deleted the original post. Now we can again go to Max's account. And check about the same thread. So we can see that that post is deleted and the 2 new posts added by Bruce are present here. Now moving on to patterns used in our code.
Now starting with patterns, singleton pattern is when auto-weight singletons are used to inject a bean of the same time into each controller. That's how it's in our application. That's how we use singleton in our application. For example, we have the post repository. In the post controller, post repository is used to access the database. and make operations on it, and we access it via the auto white symbol, which gets us the singleton object. Now moving on, MVC pattern. MVC pattern is models, views, and controllers are the primary controllers. So the model is being controlled by the controller, and the view is generated by the controller irrespective of how the model is, and it has complete controller of how the view is built. Moving on to the proxy pattern. The proxy pattern is a technique that allows one object, the proxy, to control access to another object, whether it be the subject or service. Here, the repository classes are, they directly access the DB via the model classes, which are the proxies. So now looking at the repository class, you can see it extends the JPA repository and makes database calls using the model, which is thread here. So here the threads are the proxies. Moving on to the mediator pattern, the controllers in our MVC model act as a mediator between models and views. They limit direct communication between the different components in the system and control the flow accordingly. So the mediator here would be, for example, the post controller. Here we can see that it picks up the model according to the endpoint that is being hit, and it modifies the model accordingly and returns the view. I can show another example of it in threads. We click on a particular thread, we fetch all the models that are needed from our repositories, and we render threads accordingly. So here in this topic, the controller is clearly the mediator. Moving on to the state pattern encapsulates state of a domain object into separate classes. It is used to shift seamlessly between controllers. So if a thread endpoint is set, the thread controller takes charge of it and loads the view, in other words, the HTML page accordingly. And let's say from the threads HTML page, we open a post. Now what happens is the post endpoint is hit, and the post controller takes over and uses the model to render the HTML accordingly. So there's a seamless shifting of states that is going on between the controllers. And now moving on to next part.
So these are some of the challenges we faced, like setting up Spring Boot and Gradle. We had difficulties in establishing connection between XAMPP and JPA in our application. We faced difficulties with navigating between different application components. We had trouble in finding right documentation while implementing code.
All right, moving on to the future work. These are some features that we thought we could implement, however, could not get to it. One of it is a search feature to find a particular thread in a given discussion, given if a lot of users are using our application, and then there are a lot of threads that we have to sift upon to find a particular one. That is one feature. The other one is probably adding dynamic category creation. Now, currently, we have restricted our limitation to 5 definitive sets. So it would be nice to have like different category creations. We also wanted to Dockerize and deploy our application for people to use, but with time constraints, we could not get to it. We also want to build like a better user experience with added functionality. And yep, this is all for a project. I hope you liked it. Thank you.